Okay, everyone, just to be respectful to everyone's time, I'm going to kick things off here. We might still have people joining the Zoom and I'll let people in. But since I know we have so many new faces on this morning, I wanted to give a bit of an intro to the organizer of this webinar. So I'm Jessie Rudolph and I'm with the Combine, and we are Nebraska's AgTech incubator, and we support Nebraska agriculture and food tech startups. We're currently supporting around 40 startups. Some numbers from the Combine is since 2019, we've worked with startups that have raised $40 million in both grant and venture capital funding. We also have a collective of producers who are interested in working with our startups to test ag tech and do customer discovery. And we do a lot of monthly events like this, but we're also planning our large conference for July 15th and 16th called AgTech Connect that we're really excited for. But with that, today, I'm really happy to introduce Matt Bose, and he has a great presentation prepared for us today. And I would say if you have any questions throughout, please just drop your questions in the chat and I will kind of moderate that, and then we'll have a little time for questions at the end as well. So thanks again for being here today, and I'll turn it over to Matt.
Yeah, thanks, Jesse. So, yeah, the purpose of the meeting here today, or through the webinar, is really we're going to talk about AI, like what farms, not hypothetically, what they're actually doing these days, what some of the more progressive, and in all fairness, I work with some larger farms, but like what people are actually doing, and a lot of times what they are quietly doing right now. So, yeah, I want to walk through what those things are, what I've learned along the way. We're going to walk through three case studies of where we've implemented that. Walk through a framework that I run through that when I look at new systems, kind of the what I'm trying to accomplish, um, where we're going, where I think we're going, and then lastly, like what not to do. Where has the failures come from? And some of those are hard earned right now. So, yeah, again, Jess, thanks for the introduction. Matt Bose here. I'm originally from Nebraska. I live in South Dakota, but just a little background. I had yeah, worked in agriculture my whole life. Have a went out on my own and started a small consulting business here 3 years ago. And about a year to a year and a half in, had a friend of mine that was kind of on the forefront of AI. Was like really pressed me pretty hard about this for my own business. He's like, you gotta, like, you have to learn AI. Like, you have to. And so that's what I started just doing, is just diving in, figuring things out on my own. And then I saw that there was I was like, oh, so many of these problems we're facing on the farm can be solved with that. So that's kind of the basis behind what we're going to do today. So I'll just jump in here. First case study, and this is say it's a $50,000 question. One of the first things that when I was trying to figure this out, I sat down with a farmer and we were just trying to understand the capabilities of this. I understood him, but I didn't know like what his pain points were. He didn't understand like what AI could solve. And for him, talk about the Section 41, and Section 41 is a tax and research write-off. And for him on his farm, and since 2021, he had been legitimately doing research and development, recording, had everything down, and was taking all that information, was giving it to a firm that was taking that information, and then they would develop a report to give to his CPA. And they'd done this for 4 or 5 years. And so his question to me, we were talking about like, how do we utilize this? And he's like, can I start doing my own, I'm doing all this stuff legitimately. Do I need somebody else to do that? So we took his reports from 4 years, ran it simply. This is a simple process, and I'm not going to go through a ton of processes today too, just because, yeah, this is I don't want to just get bogged down in prompting and all these things. But we took his reports from the last 4 years, matched it up against the reports that the company had given him, and basically trained our own little AI model to figure out what they were doing with his stuff. And interestingly enough, the last 2 years, when you look at it, they were using AI models to take his model and extrapolate it out. And so now he had 4 to 5 years of data that he'd put together, and he's like, I don't I don't need that firm to do this anymore for me, do I? And I said, probably not. Like we can take that back in house. And for him, this was costing him. This is a 5,000 acre farm, and for him, the service was costing him $50,000 a year. And so he brought that, or he will be bringing that in house this upcoming winter. And so it's a $50,000 question, but the bigger question, and it really spurred on to him was, okay, so how many different other processes have I been doing on my farm operation that I've been leaving up to somebody else that maybe they weren't providing the value, maybe they were. How many of those change now? How many can I do internally? So yeah, that is an interesting case study here. So working with farms, I say the real problem, and this is what I took me almost 2.5 years, 3 years of continual conversations and of learning is most farms don't have an information problem. There's plenty of information. I would say the world. We're overwhelmed with information. We have plenty of information, but farms and what I solve is powerlessness. And that's such a clunky word, so I'll use agency later, but powerlessness. Like in agriculture, there's some things that we're price takers. We have the variability of weather. We feel squeezed by input suppliers. Right now, fertilizer prices are going up. There's nothing we can do about it. We're rural. We don't have experts sitting around closely to us. We inherited families that are entwined in our businesses. Um, and we can't hire the right people. So all these things just add up and add up and add up, and farms feel powerless. So that is the real, the thing that I try to solve right there is um, to bring back the power. So um, when we talk about AI, I'm not going to be here and be some giant AI hype boy, like, oh, this is the best thing ever. Because there is skepticism involved with AI, and it is skepticism that I see too. And I don't go on there with blinders on. Some of the skepticism is true. Like these are the questions we still haven't answered. Is like, okay, who uses my data? Like, where does it go? There's all these, we can put parameters in place, but is that true? Do we want this stuff floating around in the ether? There's a new tool, there's a new update every week. It's like, how do you even keep up? Is it worth keeping up? Like, what are we doing? I don't know. Um, it's everywhere, but can I keep up? Um, and the thirdly is like, can you show me a return on investment? This is all, a lot of this stuff is cool, it's fun, but is there a true return on investment? And I think about this one a lot with precision agriculture. It's like, yeah, some of these things are really cool to have the right amount of downforce, to drop seeds at a right rate, to have these awesome maps. But at the same time, it's like, do we get a return from that? Or is it just cool to know these things and that you can run through a field at 10 miles an hour and drop seeds like that? That's the same questions I'm asked with this. Like, what's the return on investment? And then AI, another one of my skepticisms is it's an appeasement based output. It is the output that it gives you is trying to attack your dopamine receptors and is making you feel better than you actually are in all reality. If you, the very, very few times and you can change this, but very through your settings and some other different things, but um, very few times will it challenge you. Very few times will it say that you're wrong. It makes you feel good. It makes us all feel good. It makes us feel like we're great managers. Like we can do anything. We can turn a business around. We can, this is simple. So, just the skepticism for everybody and me included is it is trying to appease us. It is trying to keep us addicted to spending hours and hours and hours on it. It is no different than any kind of social media outlet. It is trying to keep us hooked and making us feel good and coming back again and again. And then lastly, is like, is this the end of the world? Like these are real questions. Um, is this is this the fall of society? I don't know. Like I hang out with people that are 3 years, 2 years ahead of me when it comes to AI, like front people on the front edge of this, and I worry. I really do. I'm like, man, I know where I'm under my understanding of this. I see where it's going. It's like it's concerning to me. So, yeah, again, I'm not some AI hype boy. I want to put there's a right amount of skepticism we should all have with this. Um, so this is what when I look at AI, this is what I've built. This is my agency test. Like when I'm looking at putting systems in place, this is what I want to bring agency back. I want to bring the power back on the farm. That is my number one thing. And I want to bring the power back to each individual to take that on themselves. So here's my simple formula. Like, can I create time? Can I put margin back in my life for my operation? Can I reduce my dependency on others? Can I reduce my dependency to uh, yeah, this sound might hit hard, but it's like, do I need to be able to, you know, run every decision through my CPA? Do I need to call up my um, mechanic? Do I need to have an input supplier? Have to do all these things. I want to reduce that dependency, and then I wanted to improve my decision making. So that is my agency test, and I'll talk a little bit more about those here. But before that, I'm going to talk about like why are smart operators getting stuck, or what have I seen? What are the things we need to watch out for? Um, the first thing here is what I want to watch out for is that when people understand the capabilities of AI and what it can and can't do, they want to jump to AI 801 before they master AI 101. And what I mean with that, and that's college level courses, they want to jump to the most complex systems they can, and their mind just races to the front. And I'm like, whoa, like we haven't even scratched the surface on what we can do at an AI 101 level. And say, for instance, I was working with a guy and kind of demoed for the first time. He had never even logged into ChatGPT, or he had, but very sparingly. And we're showing him some capabilities of it. And his first question to me, or amongst numerous questions, he's like, I've got 12 years worth of data on 5,000 acres down to the half inch mark. He's like, can I start taking that data and start extrapolating like what stuff out of it? And my answer to him was like, yes, you can do that. Like that, but we are not going to do that. Like you have things in front of you that are way more um, we just need to do it right. That's down the road. We'll get there. We'll get there in time, and I'll lay out kind of the system here, but we're not there yet. And so everybody's mind wants to race to um, these complex systems, automating their business systems. If you saw what 90%, I'm sharing some of this here, but 90% is just basic. Like it is just the super basics of AI. So that's the number one thing is our minds race just way too far ahead before we've understanding simple basics. Number two things that make us stuck is that we try to change too much at once. Once the capabilities are out there, you start to see 20 problems that you can solve. And what I found is that through human nature, our minds cannot handle that much change. It is simply impossible. Um, and this is, I think about too, like AI right now is the capabilities of any of us growing 1,500 bushel corn. And right now we're growing 300 bushel corn. And we want to uh, figure out how to do all this stuff at once. Like how to get to the point where we can grow 1,500 bushel corn in a year. Our minds are not capable of it. The human mind has not evolved to the chance of rapidly putting 20 systems in place and having those changes set. So yes, we try to do too many systems at once. My rule is that the max I'll do on anybody is two systems. Like two systems, figure it out, implement it, get it as part of your system, um, and then we move forward. Until then, we don't do anything else. So two systems put in place. Um, and then the last thing is why we're getting stuck is that people don't choose things that have 30 to 60-day wins. We're choosing stuff that's too far down the road. We're looking for solutions that may give us a return on investment in 2 to 3 years. We're not looking at the stuff that is 30 days or 60 days down the road. And what that does, if we don't create those wins early, we'll just give up on it. We'll stop. We will stop working with it. We'll say this tool doesn't doesn't work. It's just a waste. It's a, everybody's on this. It doesn't give me any. So yes, the 30 to 60-day wins or ROIs is what we're looking for too. So the first agency I talked about is creating taking AI and we create time. We create time and margin back on our operations. And so this is I shared this picture. This is actually a farm that I work with. Um, and he's got a cold plunge in his shop that he put in there. And so with him, like we had it's important to him to create when he created time, and he had this before he started doing AI, but those are like things that are important to him right now, or taking back his health. An hour a day where he can start working on his health, where he can start exercising a little bit more, using his cold plunge spool. When we put time back in our lives, in our operations, we have the ability to do whatever we want. And what I've found is that farmers in general, if you give them time and you give them margin back in their lives, they can solve just about any problem you can give them. Like but if they are at a red line all the time, they do not have space to do that. They do not have space to grow an operation. They do not have space to uh, sit down and figure out problems. They do not have time to sit down and say, my grain marketing, I've always felt lackluster on it. I've never been happy with it, but I don't have 3 hours in a week to sit down and call up a friend who's better than me. Uh, start interviewing, you know, start interviewing agencies that handle grain marketing who are better than me. Um, just learning, without that margin back in your life, you cannot solve problems and you cannot grow. So I am a firm believer that if like God will not give you more than you can carve out for yourself. Like if you're just at a red line, more abundance is not going to come into your life. And until you get to that where you have that free space where you can handle more. Yeah. So case study here, and this talks about the time. Um, and for this individual farm, and this is a different picture, but for him and his farm, uh, he'd grown a business from very small to very big, not very big, but grew it a lot over the years, and also was on a main highway. And he told me, and I'd worked with him for a couple of years, and he was telling me we were trying to put things in place and trying to figure out how to work with this, that in any given day, he could have 4 to 5 sales reps stop by his place unannounced. And I'd been, and he also had four full-time employees. And I'd been in numerous meetings with him when people were, uh, interrupting the meeting, stopping in and trying to grab something from him. So, I was like, this is creating time. Like, we cannot grow a business if you're getting interrupted 4 or 5 times a day unannounced. Like, that's killing you. Like, it's killing. That is, you cannot do that anymore. And he's like, I understand that. He's like, what do I do? So we simply put a systems in place where he has a vendor interaction protocol put in place. And basically uh, to have a meeting with him is you have to have, some different things with his vendor interactions, but you have to schedule a meeting. You have to schedule a meeting. There's no more unannounced meetings. You have to bring an agenda to him 24 hours in advance. That was one of his big things. He's like, I cannot sit down at a meeting and have somebody slide over material to me the day of, and for me to start digging through it in front of the other person. He's like, I need that ahead of time, and a couple other things. But this is so basic in that uh, we carved out that time. Now, this hasn't been simple, by the way, at all to put in place, because there's behavior. We're changing behavior, and not just yourself, but others. Um, but it's a start. It's a starting point to say, like, okay, this is my process. And he has actually a wife that works too. Like, this is our process. So if somebody calls, like, here it is. From now on, this is how we operate. Um, and it'll take time for people to adhere to it. And the other thing we put in place too, he had 4 employees, and they were stopping in all the time for little things. So we put together a simple like three part series that they could follow. That it was either A, it needed to be escalated up to him immediately. Like, here's the criteria. So everybody laid it out. B, it needs to be escalated to him, but it needs to be, he had a weekly meeting with those 4 employees. Like, it needed to be brought up at their weekly meeting. It needed to be tabled till then, or then C, like, this is you handle this yourself. And so those are the things that's like, okay, we're carving out space. We're carving out, and his employees love it. Like, they love to have, they don't know. They didn't know before. They're like, well, everybody walks around thinking they should bring everything to them. But when there's set parameters, it puts everybody on the same communication. So, um, yeah, and we're trying to change behavior. So these things don't happen automatically, especially with others. Um, Agency two, again, does it reduce dependency on others? And um, yeah, when I think about agency or reducing dependency on others, um, think about that oftentimes when I don't want people to think like you don't need others in your environment. What I think is that, do we have the ability to ask ourselves 90% of the questions before we walk into our implement dealer, before we walk into our CPA, before we walk into our agronomist? Do we have the ability to work through those questions and then come in with sharper questions when we do? When we come into that banker and say, like, okay, I think I've got all this stuff figured out. Here's what I really need to know. Dot, 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 dot. And so that decreases the dependency on others. And it decreases we also often want to work when we want to work. So, when we're worrying about others, it's scheduling a meeting around when they're available. It's not scheduling a matter when you're available. Or, there's often times where a question will burn in the back of my head at 6 in the morning or 8 o'clock at night. It's like, oh, I have a thought partner. I can run this through right now. I don't need to wait for somebody else. And this may just completely dissipate. So, um, yeah, reducing that. And again, just talking about that case study I talked about earlier, with the person with the Section 48 realization. Again, the $50,000 substantial to him and his operation. But again, realizing that, or just starting to realize, like, how many other things are there out there, that I can take in house now, that I don't need to rely on others, or maybe they haven't provided value. I've never been comfortable with the relationship. So, um, agency number three is AI's improving our decisions. And so I'm going to talk about here. This is the third case study, up in western North Dakota, farm up there. And he was a or was is a hard charging Division I athlete at one time. And when I started working with him, he had four employees, one key employee, some family involved in the operation too, specifically a daughter. And when we were looking at some of my background is in managing sales teams, and he was talking about kind of what the capabilities are. And before we even met, he was telling me his management style of like how he's managed his employees before, and it was a little rough, maybe. It was a style that suited him well. And he's like, I give them everything they can get, and I try to see if they can sink or swim. I'm like, okay, that's an interesting tactic. Um, and when we sat down, he had personality profiles done on his employees, and for that one, like a disc analysis. There's a ton of them out there. Um, this is kind of my standard procedure: disc analysis, strength finders. So many of those things are sitting unused in people's cabinets or somewhere along the way that they've gone to some, they've never functioned with them. So I sat down with him, simply pulled his disc analysis versus his employees into a simple chat GPT chat, outlined what he had told me his management style was with that employee. Here is how, you know, laid it out, short paragraph. Um, and then it spit out. It was like, yeah, pretty much came back and was like, um, this is the complete opposite way you should manage this employee. And he was like, he read it and you could see the heaviness like hit him. And he just said like, oh, burp. Like, he's like, I just didn't know. He's like, I just didn't know, Matt. He's like, I didn't know. And I felt for him. I was like, I get it. Like, I've been there as a sales manager. Like, if no one's helping you do this, how do you know? How do you know? Like, I was a crappy sales manager one time too. And luckily I had a coach that rode along with me into conversations and did these kind of things. That's the only way I learned. But now I'm like, there's a tool right here. This is, you can sharpen your communication styles, with anybody. Like, this is, and I'll talk about this later, communication styles. Like, we don't have an excuse to not be excellent communicators on the farm anymore. Simply, we can do this so easily now. And it's a tool that most people still are not utilizing. Um, and we can change that conversation of what suits me, what suits my management style. We can reframe it to what suits the other person. How does the other person learn? Um, all those things. And that's super, super important because we aren't, I mean, let's be honest, we're not, there's not employees everywhere trying to work on a farm these days. We have to manage the people we have internally and we have to manage our farms. Um, and for him too, he had a daughter involved in the farm, younger daughter. And his number one concern, he knew at that time, he was like, man, I got to be better at this. I've got to be better at communication. And so, laid out some things. It's like, well, yeah, you can do, 5 minutes before you have a conversation, you can bring this in and just refresh your mind. And it's not going to be that way forever, but um, this is just a great communication tool. And his relationship with his daughter is what was, um, most concerning to him. And my guess is that there had been some um, some strife between the two of them. Would be my guess is that how he brought and worked in that relationship. Um, so this again, super simple. And what we're doing is we're just spotting blind spots, the things we can't see, the things we cannot like impossible to see, but others can see it in us. Now we have tools through things like AI to look at those. Again, AI's most underrated application. Um, I think this is key, and the reason I beat on this, and this is the hill I'm going to die on, is that most of the farms I've seen in my life, they don't fall apart because of yields. Um, they fall apart because families can't get along, and two brothers, fight with each other. It goes on and on. Kids don't want to come back to the farm, and a lot of it is that our ability to have better conversations has been tough. It's tough to do, but there's tools out there now where we can have better conversations. Um, we can understand the other person's perspective. So I this is just one of those things that I'm like, this is in business and in management and in life. Like we need to be better communicators. We have tools now to do that, and simply like these are not complex things. So yeah, I think the most underrated applications, better conversations. Um, Again, I talked about earlier a couple of my simple rules. The 30 to 60-day rule. If it doesn't create value quick, don't start there. Is is what I've done. And I put a picture here of a aerial application, and I think about a return on investment with fungicides. I grew up in the fungicide space. Um, we're applying in middle of July. We may start harvesting middle of September. We know we're starting to get we get that return on investment in some days, that's more like 90 days. But just thinking about those things, like how fast this is too powerful a tool to look at return on investments that maybe 5 years down the road. Well, we can get there eventually, but for right now, when we're trying to adopt things and get them in place, we need quick wins, 30 to 60-day ROI is my rule there. Simple starting framework is I find one friction point. What is it? What is the real problem? We get a quick win. We get one win. And then thirdly is then we compound it. We start moving that on. So, um, where is AI headed? This is, I like to think about this. Um, I'm in rooms with people that think about stuff like this, and I see AI, especially on the farm, is that if it hasn't right now, it's going to be our number one thinking partner. Like before we go to anybody else, it's going to have so much knowledge built around our internal systems that it is our number one thinking partner. Um, you are still going to be the thought leader. It is going to be the thought partner. And it's going to have an immense amount of data that is built around you in your operation to make great decisions all the time. Not perfect, but great decisions. Um, Second thing is that we're going to bring this intelligence in-house anymore. We're starting to realize like what the value is of taking our data and giving it to somebody else. Um, I was just with a farm during planting a couple weeks ago, and he was talking about how he is, it's a larger, he's almost 10,000 acres. And he was telling me his process of that he sends his data to John Deere Ops, and then the other piece goes to climate. And I said to him, I was like, well, who owns that data? Like, where's it go? Who owns it? And he was like, I don't know. He's like, I'm sure I signed an agreement somewhere along the way, but I have no clue where that data is. Um, and he's like, before or now, it didn't matter. It just didn't matter. It's like I couldn't do anything with that data anyway. I'm not a data scientist. He's like, it didn't matter. It's like, and it just got him to thinking, like, oh, what's that worth to somebody else? What's that worth to me now that I can look at that? And like, how do I bring it back in house? How do I protect that before? So I think there's a lot of questions like that of guys that are thinking like, oh, how do I build my own servers? How do I build my own systems that are unique to my operation? So that's, I think we're gonna get to that point. And then lastly, is kind of what I've seen too is that um, with AI, people that farms that are putting these in place, the questions are not around scaling operations. They're not around adding more acres. They are around new opportunities. They are around the business that sat on the side and they couldn't ever grow it. They're around um, all these other auxiliary pieces that they've just never had a chance to sit down and think about. They're not about taking their farm from 3,000 acres to 6,000 acres. So I think that is where we sit down and have thought partners on that. I think that's where the thing that I've seen is as people's minds start drifting almost away from the farm, more so in a standard cropping situation. So final thought here, and open some questions, is that kind of talking before is AI restores agency. That is the key takeaway here is that it's had at least it has the ability to restore agency and or that sense of powerlessness. So it's going to be upsetting to the whole system that was built this way. But yeah, I think it's a real opportunity to bring that to not alleviate all that sense of powerlessness, but a good portion of it. So yeah, with that, Jesse, yeah, open up anybody some questions here.
And feel free to drop any questions in the chat. I see Ryan Anderson with his camera on. If you have something, go ahead and unmute.
Thanks, Jesse. Matt, thank you very much for the presentation. I was
Yeah.
just wondering if you might make a few comments, and excuse me if you already hit on some of these during the presentation, but think about that 20% or so of early adopters of technology of producers.
Yep.
Where do you feel like they're at in terms of trust, in terms of what AI is giving them in general?
Ooh, they're not trusting, by the way. Like that's first and foremost, they're not trusting. It's a great question. I'm gonna say that Ryan, they're too trusting. I'm gonna walk that back, and I'm gonna say people are too trusting right now. That is what I'll stand on that. Is that um, the first adopters are too trusting right now. They're too trusting of their own ability to give an AI model everything they want. And they haven't yet discovered that they have their own blind spots. And I'll give you an example. Um, is that I worked with a person that had numerous businesses within numerous agribusinesses. First time I talked to him, um, I've known this person for quite a long time. I drive home 6 hours. We go through the capabilities, drive home 6 hours. He um, sends me a link to his chat. You can do that to people. You can send them a link to what your conversation was. And he has spent the last, I don't know how long, a while, laying out his problem to ChatGPT for the first time. He has shared 5 years worth of financial data to it. Um, has no has no nothing built in for privacy on it. Has shared financials. I don't have a working agreement with him. I've got all 5 years of his financials. He has laid out everything. ChatGPT has told him, yeah, one of your businesses is underutilized. Here's the simple processes. Dot dot dot. Here's what you need to do. You don't need to sell that business. Go for it. I read it. I'm like, oh, okay. He's laying out. He missed a couple key points in that. His wife. He is wore out. He's haggard. He's like I've known for a while. He's tired, like tired, and his wife is screaming at him, not screaming at him, but his wife is barking at him, um, like he's leaving those things out. He is leaving those things out, and that you know, my guess is if he says that she's screaming, like I know what that means. Like things are at a breaking point, and so yeah, ChatGPT is telling him, "Hey, man, you've got these businesses. You can make this work still." And he's like, "Nah." Um, but with somebody sitting down with him, like, "Hey, no." So yeah, I think right now it's a long-winded answer, Ryan, but when people first start, they're too trusting.
Cool. Let's take this question from the chat, and then I saw Ag Launch has one, but we'll go to the chat first. What are the first questions farmers should be asking when they're thinking about finding new opportunities with AI in their operation?
Um, what problem do I want to solve? Like, what is the problem I want to solve, and what can be solved within 30 to 60 days? What is, or the second question is, what is a outweighted decision that consumes in a massive amount of energy that I hate doing? Like, what are those things that show up once a year you despise? Like, what are those, for a guy that I worked with last year, his was doing employee reviews. He hated it, like hated it. Drug his feet all winter. Didn't know the process, hated it, didn't have a personality type for it. Um, it's like that's the great place to start. It's like how do you get to the point where you can have somebody else like hey help you with that. So I think that's a great starting point.
Okay, let's go to Margaret.
Thank you. Awesome information and insight. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing that, Matt. I am curious about any tips you might have about protecting anonymity. I think that, as you said, there's a lack of trust.
Yep.
And I can give several personal experiences of trying to use AI tools that, it remembers, right? So like
Yep.
I may be asking questions about my son's business, Gospel of Peace Kicks, a
Yep.
little entrepreneur journey he's on. But then the next day I'm asking about something to do with a farmer I'm working with, and it will merge the two. Like it will say,
Yep.
now if you're asking this for that, and I'm like, no, I didn't prompt you with that.
Yep.
So I'm curious about tips. And I will also say this one thing that I did do recently with a trust that I'm working on. It's again, this is something that I think farmers have a lot of opportunity with, like their just the generational transfer. And my mom is a farmer; she's working on that. So I anonymized everything. It was mother trust, kid one, kid two, kid
Yep.
three, grandkid, yeah, and dropped it in, and it was so helpful.
Yeah.
Absolutely helpful. And this is after years of working with an attorney.
Yeah.
So I truly see the value of things. But like I said, these experiences cause me to somehow be distrustful. And some of our farmers I know are experiencing the same thing. So
Yeah.
I'd love to hear your tips.
Well, so there's ways to build in, and you're right, it stores a ton of information, and sometimes it doesn't store it. You just don't know. But there's core things that you can put in to your models that keep it there, that keep it, that don't ever leave. Things like core values on your farm. Um, yeah, there's a ton of different things you can put in there, and you can lock those in place. But I also think, Margaret, when you talk about it with AI output, I think about it too a lot like a calculator. Like you have to, if you are, you have to be the thought leader. It is the thought partner, period. If it becomes the thought leader and you are the thought partner, you're in trouble. Like
Mm-hmm.
you own the relationship. Like like somebody taught me how to learn this. They're like, picture the world's leading expert sitting next to you. Like, what questions are you asking it? Um, I don't know where I'm getting lost here, where I was going with that. But yeah, I, I would push back, Margaret, in saying that I think one of the largest benefits of AI is that it does pull in all these things. We've
Mm-hmm.
tried to operate our businesses as a silo, especially a family business. We've tried to be like, oh, that's my family business. In
Right.
all reality, when we're building a business, we're building ourselves. Like it all matters. It's our wife's relationship it needs to know that. It needs to know about your spirituality. It needs to know about your vacation plan. Like
Mm-hmm.
all that stuff folds in together, and that's what makes it um really powerful. It's like it's a holistic view, or it can have a holistic view. But again, the calculator thing is that you have to have enough, and I assume not like you particularly, but we all have to have enough gray matter, like a calculator, to get an answer and be like, that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or there's times where I'll just be working with something, I'll be like, that is complete crap.
Yeah.
And I might just say, like, that's a bad answer. Like you miss, like that's bad. Like
Right.
I know better than this.
Right. And I know with paid subscriptions, you can check the box like do not use my
Yep.
info for training purposes,
Yep.
which implies, and I again trying to help navigate some generational
Yep.
transfer stuff, put in some health stuff around my mom. And I said, do not use this for any other purpose. This is just for this answer. Don't know if that matters or not, but I'm
Yep.
just trying to, I wouldn't want that to pop up in some future thing and impact her insurance needs,
Yeah. Yep. I
So,
agree. I
yeah.
agree.
Thank
And
you for your
so,
answer.
yeah, and Margaret, one of those things too is I didn't talk about financial stuff, is kind of what I've been coaching guys on. That it's like, let's not let's not jam a bunch of financials in there. Like I'm not too worried about some of the other stuff. But the financials, I don't know. Do I want my neighbor to know that I'm worth uh my balance sheet, I'm worth $25 million? Yeah. I mean, those are legit. Do I want people to know that in town? Do I know, like, no. Do I want, yeah. So I stay away from financials at this point. But yes, the way these systems are built, the more money that you spend on them, the better uh, ability you have to them not train on your data. That's just the way it is. So, yep.
Let's go over to Joy.
Thanks, Jesse. Thanks for this, Matt. This was really insightful and a lot of surprises in here I wasn't expecting. So thank you for your thoughtfulness. One thing I've been thinking a lot about is the environmental impacts of the different AI tools, especially
Yeah.
the amount of water, that's required
Yep.
to power data centers or cool data centers. I'm curious if, I think of our farmers as some of our biggest conservationists and most in touch with things like water usage of anyone in
Mhm.
society. So I'm just curious, have you been having conversations about those sort of things, or are people kind of disconnecting? Like,
They're
I'm going to
not
use
there.
AI tools.
They're not there yet.
Okay.
They're not, and I'm not. Um, they will be quickly, especially you get into places where, you get into the Republican watershed in Nebraska, somewhere like that, where people are restricted on their water. Um, it'll be utilized. I just don't have anybody like that. But yeah, um, it's a great point in that things like see and spray technology right now that we have where, and that's where I cut my teeth is in the insecticide fungicide area. I'm like, man, there'll be a day when we just laugh that we used to broadcast herbicides over every acre. Like, what is the environmental impact of that? Our kids will laugh. They'll be like, you did what? You didn't just target a plant? And be like, yeah, we didn't. What's the environmental impact? So I think and that's being processed with artificial intelligence. There's things like I know companies are working on like loss coming out the back of a combine and taking like snapping pictures and things like that. So um, I think there's 1,000 different ones, but to answer your question again, no one's there yet. Again, I think that's down the road before they answer the simpler questions. Yeah. And the return on investment's a little
Got
bit
it.
farther too. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you.
But
What other questions? If you have something and want to just come off mute, please feel free. Okay, I think that sounds great. Thanks so much for your time, Matt.
yeah,
And thank you so much to everyone for taking the time to get on this morning. And I also did record this session and I'll put it up on the Combine YouTube channel as well if anyone wants to go back to it.
yeah. And if you want to share, people feel free to send me an email um, or phone conversation because I'm learning along the way too. I'm not an expert. I don't think anybody who claims they are at this point. But yeah, I'm learning. So yeah, appreciate the time, Jesse.
Very cool. Thanks so much, everyone, and have a great rest of your day. Bye.
All right. Bye.